What is up, you guys? Jason Rains, your KC seller with Remax Elite Realtors here. And today I'm answering some questions that got sent in. So stick around to hear what they are. All right, guys, before we get into it, want to welcome you to the channel or welcome back to the channel. But if it's the first time, I need you to go ahead and click that subscribe and then the notification bell so you are notified every single time I drop a new video. Guys, this channel is all about what it's like to work, eat, sleep, live, play here in the greater Kansas City area. So if you want to know all about Kansas City, if you want to know all about real estate, what the market's like, what Lee Summit's like, what Platte City's like, what Overland Park is like, what those cities are like, a whole bunch of other cities, specific neighborhoods, or you just want answers to questions, knowledge, what the market's doing, what out-of-state buying looks like, anything and everything you can think of, this is the channel for you. So like I said, click that subscribe and the notification bell. We drop videos every Tuesday and every Saturday, so there you go. Now, I love making these videos for you guys. I am a licensed realtor in the state of Missouri and the state of Kansas, and I would love to be your go-to when buying, selling, anything real estate related here in the greater Kansas area. So just reach out. My phone number is down below. My email is down below. Give me a call, shoot me a text, email, whatever it is, just reach out and know I got your back with real estate here in Kansas City. So let's get to it, guys. We're gonna do 2 questions that I received from a buyer and then 2 questions I received from a seller today. So we're gonna start on the buy side. And the first question is, Jason, should I do a home inspection, right? Talking about part of the buying process. And my answer to that is, I've always recommended doing home inspections, especially now that the market's starting to shift a little bit more. It's making things a little easier on the buying side. We look back at 6-12 months ago when the market was really flying and stuff was going, 10, 12 offers on every property. Stuff was going for way over listing price. You were having to pretty much give away everything you had to get a home, right? Or at least that's what people felt like. Not really true, but that was perception. So that's what we're going with. So in that situation, we were seeing a lot of in its present condition addendums, which there's 3 options on that. And number 1 is you can do home inspections. You can walk away based on the results, but you're not gonna ask for any repairs. Option number 2 was you can do home inspections. You cannot walk away based on the results and you cannot ask for repairs. And number 3 was you waived all rights to even do the inspection, right? I was never one to really recommend the 3rd option, giving away your rights to do the home inspection. Did I have clients do it? Yes. Did I like it? Not really. Case by case basis, sometimes I felt better about it than others. Maybe the house had already been under contract and the previous buyer that had it under contract had just done a home inspection. They backed out. We had access to that home inspection because we requested it. We knew it existed. We asked for it. We went over it. We looked at it. My buyers were comfortable using that information and not doing another home inspection. Sure, waive your rights to home inspection because you've already looked at one and move forward, right? It's kind of like you did one, but really if someone else is and they saved $500-600 not doing one. But I think in that situation, it's okay not to do one, but generally, yes, you want to do a home inspection, right? Even if it's that first or second option, my belief is that every buyer should have the knowledge of what is going on with the property that they're buying, right? And the only way to do that is with a home inspection or seeing a previous home inspection that was done recently. I say recently because you don't want one that's like 6 months old, something else could have happened in the house since then, right? But yeah, I think that everyone should have the knowledge of what's going on with the property before they buy it, right? I think that's their right, and strongly advise you to have that information before deciding to move forward with the property. So would I waive one? I would say no. Again, every situation is a little bit different. Again, now that the market's starting to shift a little bit, this video is October of 2022, just to give you a reference for depending on when you find this video. But I think that depending upon, or now that the market's starting to shift, we're not seeing as many in its present condition addendums, right? I have 2 properties under contract right now that I was the listing agent on. Neither one of those properties have a in its present condition addendum. Those buyers are both doing home inspections, and they're deciding if they want to move forward with it without any renegotiations, or if they're wanting to ask for repairs or ask for a monetary value off. For example, one of the properties that I have under contract now as a listing, they did the inspections. They asked for $2,500 off. They were going to make the repairs themselves and save some money that way, but they asked for a $2,500 credit. We negotiated that down to $1,900 credit, and they moved forward. The other listing I have under contract, they did home inspections, said, hey, everything looks good. We're taking the house as it is. After we've done inspections, we're not going to ask for any repairs, and keep on moving forward with that process. So that's really up to you on, after you've done those inspections, which route you want to go, right? So hopefully that answers the question on should you do home inspections. I say yes, and those are the reasons for that. Just you learn a whole lot on those home inspections, and they're not done to scare you away from the property, because the home inspector, if they're good, will call out every single thing they find. Now, hopefully they're professional enough not to tell you what should or shouldn't be fixed. That's really up to you. Their job is to list everything they can find with the home, and then they should recommend a professional in that area of the problem for further investigation, right? If there's a plumbing problem, recommend contacting a plumber for a proper evaluation and estimates for repairs. If it's a roofing situation, recommend having a professional roofer come out, take a look at the roof, right? Somebody that specializes in that area versus the home inspector that just has general knowledge of each area, right? So that's my answer on home inspection. So that question leads really well into the second question of what happens if I walk away from the house after I have it under contract, okay? So there are times where that's needed. Hopefully it's not that you just changed your mind and you don't want the house anymore, right? But there are things that come up throughout the process that maybe you decide you don't want to buy the house anymore, right? Maybe stuff was turned up in the home inspection. You're like, yeah, I don't want this house anymore, right? Like there's just way too much. I wouldn't have bought the house if I knew there was foundation problems. I knew there were structural problems. I knew there was infested with termites or other wood destroying insects. The roof is completely shot, whatever it might be, you just don't want to deal with it. Maybe it's a combination of all those things. You're like, yeah, let's cancel this and let's go look for a different house, right? So when we start talking about canceling contracts, somebody asked me, when they asked this question, I had someone else ask me, well, don't I lose my earnest money deposit if I walk away from the house? Maybe, you might, right? It depends upon the contract and the timelines that are set forth in the original contract, right? So in generally you have 10 days to do a home inspection, okay? By 11:59 p.m. on the 10th day, and day 1 is the day after the contract's accepted. So let's say you get your contract accepted on Monday, day 1 is until a Tuesday, okay? Then you have until the 10th day at 11:59 p.m. to turn in what's called an inspection notice and a resolution of unacceptable conditions if you're asking for repairs or money off. If you're not, and you're just planning on walking away, you just have the inspection notice and you mark that, hey, you did an inspection, you're canceling the contract per the terms of the contract. You should, in theory, get that earnest money deposit back. I say in theory because both sides actually have to sign off that you get the money back, right? Usually we don't see a problem with that on the seller side not signing it, especially if you're within your right, within your time. We have a legally binding contract that they've signed, that you've signed. We can talk to the other agent, we can talk to their broker, we can get other people involved and get that room deed if there is a problem, but usually we don't see a problem on that side. Usually it's when buyers back out of a deal and they're not within certain time frames that are set forth and they want the money back. The seller says, no, you're out of your time period, I'm not gonna give the money back. The seller or the buyer says, well, then I'm not signing the form that says you get to keep the money either. And then nobody gets the money back, right? And in those situations, I've had it happen one time, and the title company holds earnest money deposit for a year, and then it goes to the state of Missouri. That's what happens, it goes to the state, right? So definitely not an ideal situation, one that we want to get in, but sometimes things happen, and that's one of the things that can happen with that. So so you have your 10-day inspection period to do the inspection, decide if you want to cancel. The next timeline is after the 10 days. Let's say you decided to send in a resolution of unacceptable conditions where you're asking for repairs. The time clock starts over and you have 5 days to negotiate that. At the end of the 5th day, or after the 5th day, either side may cancel. The seller may cancel, or you may cancel. Not during the 5-day period, after the 5-day period. If the resolution hasn't been signed, then either side may cancel and get your earnest money deposit back. So you can cancel at that time. The last time that you're able to cancel is during the appraisal. If the appraisal comes in low, right? The buyer's lender orders the appraisal, the buyer pays for the appraisal. So for example, $500,000 house, appraisal comes back and it's $475,000. We have a problem, right? We have, again, 5 days to negotiate the problem. Either the seller comes down to the $475,000, you come up with an extra $25,000 in cash, somewhere in the middle, or the whole deal can fall apart. If we can't come to an agreement within 5 days, either side may cancel. Now, in either situation, let's say you take 7 days to agree and you both move forward, that's fine, you still move forward and buy the house. But on day 6, if you decide to cancel or the seller decides to cancel, that's it, you get your earnest money deposit back. So now those are really the only times you're allowed to cancel and still get your earnest money deposit back, right? If you're not worried about so before I get to this, if you cancel outside of that time period, you most likely will lose your earnest money deposit, okay? Now, maybe you don't care if you lose your earnest money deposit. Maybe it's, man, Jason, it's $1,000. I know, I mean, $1,000 sucks to lose, but I would rather lose $1,000 than go forward with buying this home, okay? Yes, you then lose your EMD if you're outside of those timeframes. That's best case scenario, okay? And I say best case scenario because you had a legally binding contract, you broke that legally binding contract, the seller can sue you for performance of your legally binding contract. They can take you to court and force you, or basically force you to buy the home, right? Present all the evidence to the judge, and the judge can say, no, you have to move forward and buy this home, right? That'd be worst case scenario. It doesn't usually go that route, but maybe you cancel and their house goes back on market and it takes 2 weeks to go back under contract, and the next offer that came in is $10,000 lower than the one you had. They could sue you for the difference. They could sue you for that $10,000 difference that they lost because you illegally backed out. Not really illegally, but you breached your contract and backed out, and it cost them $10,000, and now they can prove damages of $10,000. So not here to give any legal advice. I'm not a lawyer. Really, when it gets into that, I can tell you, kind of explain some options, but at the end of the day, you would need to reach out to your legal counsel and ask them for their thoughts, get their advice. They are the legal professionals, right? I'm not here to provide legal advice. I'm just trying to give you some ideas of what may or may not happen if you should decide to walk away from a house that you had under contract, right? So, all right, so now let's flip over to the selling side, right? So the 2 seller questions I got are, how long is it gonna take to sell my house, and what should I price my house for, right? Short answer, I don't know how long it's gonna take to sell your house, right? We can do everything that we can, and it might still take 2 weeks, it might take 3 weeks, it might take 4 weeks. This market's really hard to tell right now, with it kind of shifting more towards the buyer's market. A lot more inventories out there. I think a lot of it comes into, falls back on the other question of pricing the home, right? And so I'll get to that in a second. But then I think it comes down to marketing the home as well, right? And hiring an agent that's going to do everything they can to market the home, put it in a position to try to sell as fast as possible. There was a stat I saw not too long ago, and I can't remember the exact number. It was something like 95%. It was something crazy, like 95% of the real estate agents out there have never sold a house that has been on the market for longer than 30 days. 95%. That just goes to show you that there's so many new agents out here, and the market's moved so quick the last years that only 5% of the agents out there practicing real estate have experience in selling homes when they're on the market for longer than 30 days. That is a crazy statistic, you guys. So I think finding an experienced real estate agent that, especially in the shifting market, that has experienced that before will help definitely that situation, get your home sold. I just had a house that was on the market for 70 days, 70, before it went under contract. And it was priced right to begin with. We didn't end up getting that full listing price, but you know, at the end of the day, the house was worth what someone's willing to pay for it. And it was a price that my buyer or my sellers were okay with. So we went and won our contract. But 70 days, you guys think about that, in a market that we're coming out of where stuff was really, everything was going under contract in 2 days, right? So big difference there. So again, there's no real way to tell how long it's gonna take to sell. You just have to put yourself in a position to try to get it under contract as soon as possible, right? And know that on the buying side, where a few months back you look at a home and see it been on market for 30 days, you're like, oh, there must be something wrong with that. Like, we're not even gonna look at that. There must be something wrong. Guys, that is going to become more and more the norm. So on the buying side, if you're looking at houses and you're seeing they've been on 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 weeks, there might not be anything wrong with them. It's just the way the market is shifting, okay? So just understand that as well. You should still go see those properties too. What should you sell your house for? Again, this is a tricky one. Every situation is different. I think that when I'm asked that question for a specific property, I'm only looking at comps for like 0 to 60 days. I'm looking for stuff that is active on the market. So I know my competition is, or know what your competition is. I'm looking at stuff that's currently under contract. I can't use it as a comp, but maybe it's gonna close before we do, and then I can. And I'm looking at stuff that's sold just in the last 60 days. You guys, I'm not going back to the spring, right? I'm just going back to this fall and looking at stuff. And I think if you're going back longer than that, you're gonna be listed too high if you're using comps from 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 12 months ago, right? You're gonna be priced way too high. And in this market, it's hard to, once you start dropping the price, if you have to, it's hard to catch up to the market and the buyer's expectations, where they think the value of your house is, and you're having to do bigger price drops to try to get back in front of a shifting market, right? So I think it's more important to price it competitively, which I've always really thought, but even more so now than ever, price it competitively based on comps from just 0 to 60 days ago, right? And know that we might even want to go a hair below that, because we don't know if the market's going to continue to shift that way, right? So again, I can't tell you exactly what to list your house for. I'd have to know the address, look it up, do the research, do all that stuff. But I just had a client call me this week, and actually yesterday she called me, and she wanted to know, hey, we're thinking about selling our house. Can you tell me what it's for, what it might be worth? And it's in Beacon Hill, which is upper end neighborhood here, kind of in the mid part of Kansas City, midtown part of Kansas City. And I looked at everything, and I was like, they bought it in 2016 for $450,000, and it's probably worth $640,000 to $650,000 right now. And she was like, oh my gosh, I would love $650,000. I think that, you know, we'll definitely do something by the spring. So that's great. Let me know when you're ready to pull the trigger. But just know, right now with this shifting market, I need to rerun that number every single month, right? The number might be different next month. It might be different in December. Generally, the market softens even a little bit more in the wintertime. You got holidays, people don't want to get out, the roads are bad, all that stuff. This market slows down just a little bit in the wintertime, at least historically, not the past few years, but historically it does. And I said that, it's totally up to you. I think if, I told her before I even came up with 650, I said, when I give you the number, I think that if you're okay with that number, you go and pull the trigger now. If you're not okay, or you want to wait a little bit to see which way it goes, then we wait. But I think right now, if you get a number and you're okay with that number, then you just go ahead and list your house now, because no expert, not me, not any other agent, knows exactly what's going to happen 3 to 6, 9 months from now, 3, 6, 9 months from now. So you just kind of have to take all that into consideration when you're pricing your home. So hopefully that gave you, this whole video gave you some good insight, both on the selling side and on the buying side. And hopefully you can use this information to make decisions as you move forward. Again, if there's anything I can specifically do to help, I am a licensed agent in the state of Kansas and the state of Missouri, and would love to help you in buying or selling here. So just reach out, you guys. Until the next video, have a great day.